Oh, that sounds so good. Hey everyone, Piano Man Chuck here, and I'm here today with the Casio's new PX-S3000. Now, Privia PX-S series has only two pianos in it so far, and this is one of them. The other one is the PX-S1000. And if you're interested in that, I have a review that I've done on that. I'll put a link in the description. This one is for the PX-S3000. $799 street price, US, which is a bargain for everything you get. Hey, you know what? I've got some dust on here. Check this out. This is a microfiber cloth. I am cleaning this without pressing any of the buttons here. And the reason for that, this is capacitive touch buttons here. They're sensitive to your finger, the warmth, and a few other factors. So if you were wearing gloves, you wouldn't be able to press these buttons. So that's really cool that you could clean this without affecting anything. Anyway, has nothing to do with anything. I just thought I'd throw that in there. But it is a whole new concept for Casio and keyboards to use capacitive touch buttons. But the really nice thing about this is everything is lit up, and you can see even if you're in the darkest of venues, you've got everything nice and labeled for you. You don't have to use one of those lights attached to a music stand or anything like that to see what you're getting into. It's right there. Love that. So anyway, when you get this, what you get is you get the keyboard, obviously. You get this music rest, which just hooks in here. It's really good and a big improvement over the older Privia music rests. When you play, it doesn't move around. It stays still. You're not going to lose your music or have it rattle off the stand. Big improvement there too. And you also get, this is a sustain or damper pedal. It's a cheap little plastic switch on or off. So basically when you push your foot down, it's on and everything on the keyboard is sustaining or damping. And when you lift off, it's off. Now, they also have a way of doing half damping so that gradual, when you press on the sustain pedal, how much you press on the sustain pedal determines how much sustain. That's called half damping as opposed to just on or off. And you can do that by purchasing Casio's optional 3-pedal triple pedal unit. Same pedals you'd expect to see on any kind of regular piano. You've got the sustain pedal, you got the soft pedal, and the sostenuto pedal. So, very cool. Also in a slim form, just like this. Everything is slim, but that doesn't affect functionality at all. This is the slimmest 88-key hammer action weighted graded in the world, and it's under 25 pounds. So, and the keys are phenomenal, the action on it. It's hard to believe, even though this is on the inside, below the plastic where you can't see the keys, it's about an 1/8 inch shorter than the previous Privia models. But as far as what's exposed, what you're playing, that's full-size piano keys just like you'd find on any acoustic piano. And the action is just phenomenal on this. It's a little heavier action that you're used to with the other Privias, but you can control that too. And what I like to do is one of the first things I did when I got this is I like to go into the keyboard action and change the touch response. I have it set for light 2 right now. And it came set to normal, but I like a lighter action. I think I can be much more expressive and more dynamic with a light action. This is normal right here. And you can go heavy. It's taking more pressure to play the same thing. And if you go light, which is the way I like it, so it doesn't take much pressure to play, and you can get much more dynamic range by setting it off to light. Okay, so let's get started. This piano happens to have 700 different sounds or instruments or tones, whatever you want to call it. And they've broken that up into 6 categories: piano, electric piano, organ, strings, pad, and others. And there's subcategories in there too. And if you're using Casio's app for your tablet or your smartphone, it's called Casio Cordana Play for Piano. Not Cordana Play, that's a different app, but Cordana Play for Piano. And everything's right there in front of you. It's all lined up. It makes things so much easier than going through menus here to get to a certain instrument that you want. Although it's not bad at all. It's a standard menu-based system. And if you're going to be using things a lot, they have registrations or settings where not only do you put what you want in those banks, you can configure all kinds of stuff like DSPs and effects and all kinds of stuff like that, layers, splits, and put it into a setting. Now you've got 24 banks of where to put that in, and each bank has 4 areas. Call it A, B, C, D. So 24 times 4 is 96 different registration slots to put your favorite stuff in there. So you don't have to go through menus every time. You just do it the first time to set up what you want to play the most, and you've got it. It's right there. And there's also rhythms, 200 rhythms. So you have a backing percussion track to play with, and so you also have 310 music presets. So presets are like popular songs, and you've got the music to that, so that you can learn how to play along your piano part to those popular music songs. And you've got 12 different types of auto harmonize, as well as 100 different arpeggiator types. Wow, that's a lot to say as far as these capabilities. Now, let's talk about the sound engine or the sound chips. The previous Privia series used a sound engine or a sound chip that they called AIR, Acoustic Intelligent Resonator, which brings out the natural resonance of a piano sound, and they really did a phenomenal job with that. And last year they introduced a new kind of sound chip for their portable pianos, and they're starting to integrate that with things like this called AIX, Acoustic Intelligent Expression, which basically brings out all the nuances and everything of acoustic, non-piano acoustic instruments like guitar and wind instruments and string instruments and reeds. They've done a phenomenal job with that too. Now, AIR, like I said, specializes in piano, and AIX specializes in all the other acoustic instruments that are not piano. So what they did in this here, they combined both, and they made sort of a hybrid chip, so you get the best of both worlds. You get 2 sound engines, piano and everything else. And the more expensive models from like Korg and Kurzweil, Nord, you'll see that they use separate sound engines for different categories as well. So you're getting the best of both worlds. They're calling it the new AIR chip. They really should call it AIR 2 or whatever, but new AIR doesn't sound like anything much, but it really is a big deal. All right, so in here you've got a graphic display. It's a 3-line graphic display. And you've got your pitch bend wheel over here and 2 assignable knobs. Notice I said assignable, not programmable. So you've got 14 different assignments for these knobs, and they're predetermined. And here's a list of what you can assign to those. Like I said, there's 14 of them. And when you assign something, let's say like number 8, layer modify. Okay, and that's the name of it. And Knob 1 is going to control layer volume balance, and knob 2 is going to control upper 2 fine tune. So basically, they come in pairs. So that's what you get with the knob set list. And while I'm talking about these lists, here's another one for you. They have a freeze parameter list. So these registrations and setups that I was just talking about, when you recall one, it's going to take everything that is in there and overwrite what's on the keyboard. And now what I said in the beginning is I like a light key velocity. So if I take a registration and I load that, it's going to wipe out that key velocity along with a lot of other stuff. So they have this thing called freeze, where you can freeze up to 12 different parameters so that they are locked in place. In other words, when you load a registration in, it's not going to overwrite it. And here's the list over here. And you'll notice that the fourth thing on the list is touch response. And I want to turn that on because I want that frozen. I always want to keep it the way it is and not have it overwritten. And the same thing with all the other 11 things. So split point is one of those things, transpose. So you get the idea. So they've done a phenomenal job there too. All right, now let's get going with other features. It's got a built-in amp and speakers, not too powerful, 16 watts, 8 watts per side. It's enough for a room, living room, small gig, possibly an intimate restaurant setting. And it also runs on 6 AA batteries. How cool is that? Under 25 pounds, battery operated, built in amp and speakers. I mean, like, I'm in heaven. And the key action on this is just to die for. Okay, now, everything here is designed from the ground up. They didn't use anything from the previous Privia generation. In fact, they've done everything from the ground up so well, and they've introduced some new concepts here that you could almost say they've defined a whole new genre of keyboard here. The key action for what they've worked with is just amazing. And it is comparable to key actions on some of the better pianos or other digital keyboards out there. I wouldn't say it's a Kawai MP11 or VPC1 type of quality, but it's really getting there. Yamaha has CP4. It's getting close to that too. Now, the only thing that they've sacrificed on that is when you play into a key, which is no problem while you're playing, you won't notice anything, but if you're looking for it, if you play into a key, the closer you get to the fall board, like 1/4 inch or so, the more pressure it's going to take. And you notice that when you're looking for it. But when you're playing, you don't notice that at all. It doesn't even show up. And amazingly, on the black keys, no problem wherever you are. You don't even notice anything. So that's one thing. Now, everybody's dealing with this brand new technology that was introduced a few years back called triple sensor. Well, they have outdone that here. In fact, what they did almost makes triple sensor look obsolete. It's 2 sensors, okay? But instead of bring a key up past that middle sensor so it knows when you're restriking a key, they've had software to monitor this. So wherever you are between those 2 sensors, at any point that you bring a key up to restrike the key, it knows. So they call that smart scaled hammer action. The smart part being the software monitoring all that. All right, now let's get into the back panel. All right, so we've got the damper pedal input, and that's the on-off type of damper pedal. So next to the damper pedal input, we've got a proprietary triple pedal input connection. It is proprietary, the pedal, the connection, all that stuff. So you are basically stuck with the Casio triple pedal. You won't be able to go out and buy a third-party manufacturer's triple pedal because you're going to be using Casio's, and it's decently priced at $99. Next to that, you've got a 1/8 inch stereo audio input, so from your MP3 player, your smartphone, or your tablet, or whatever, can feed that in. It also has Bluetooth, so you can play back stuff from your smartphone or anywhere that has Bluetooth through this. Then you've got your standard left and right line outputs, where if you're just using the left, you get a summarized signal mono, so you can hook it up to an amp. Or you use both of them, so you can hook it up stereo to a mixer, PA, or audio interface, or whatever. Then you've got the expression pedal input, and that is so cool. You can do a lot of stuff. It lets you do a lot of stuff with that expression pedal input, including setting up that pedal to be used as a half damper. So if you have an expression pedal and you don't need to do the functions of a triple pedal, all you want is half damping, I have a video that shows you how to do that with the expression pedal. Then your standard 12 volts DC input, they give you an AC adapter, you plug into the wall, the other end plugs in here. Now you've got 192 notes of polyphony, which is great. I mean, a lot of more expensive keyboards have 192 or even 128. 192 is a nice figure for polyphony. And they give you a recorder. Basically, it's 3 tracks and up to 5 songs. So if you're a beginner, you can record your left hand, and then while you're playing that back, you can record your right hand. So that's one way of practicing. Or you can write your own stuff, and up to 3 tracks. So you might have piano, you might have something else, and you might have a third instrument. Very cool stuff here. Now, like I said, battery operated. The batteries are expected to last only about 2 hours with this. So if you're going to use the battery, make sure you bring some fresh spare batteries with you, unless all you're going to be playing is an hour or so. But still, it's a good idea to always have fresh backup batteries. And like I mentioned earlier, Cordana Play for Piano app. If you don't like menu diving, which, I mean, it's not bad. It's a standard menu system like so many other manufacturers have. But if you want everything all in one place, it's so much easier to navigate. Cordana Play for Piano hooks right up with the USB cable. It can use Bluetooth too, but as a remote screen, your big screen as opposed to this as a remote screen, you're going to have to hook it up with the USB cable. All right, so with all of that said, let's start getting into the front panel and what some of these things sound like. Now, the front panel over here, like I said, everything lights up and it's easy to read, it's well lit. You can play a gig in the dark and you see everything right in front of you. So you've got 18 different places where you can touch. And you see these 2 bars all over the place. They look like an equal sign. That's where you actually touch. So you don't touch the wording or anything like that. That's just there to show you the way. You actually touch the equal sign. That is how you make a selection here. So notice the right half over here. I don't know if you can see the detail, but basically these are my tone categories: piano, electric piano, organ, strings, pad, and others. So if I go ahead and hit function, that changes to rhythms. Now I've got 6 categories for rhythms: pops, jazz, traditional, Latin, world 1, world 2, and ballad. And if I hit it a third time, here's where I have more control. This is my control selection here: DSPs, transpose, knob, arpeggiator, and then splits and layers. And by the way, for transpose, notice how I had to get to the control section to get to transpose. Then I have to hit transpose, and from there I can do my transpose. Okay. if you have this hooked up to the Cordana Play for Piano app, transpose is right there. You don't have to mess with all these button presses. Right there, one thing. So anyway, if you go through DSPs here, you can see the first one is tone, and the next one is mono 1 band EQ, and there's a lot of stuff. There's actually 100 of these, so I'm not going to go through all of those. Transpose, I just went through. Knobs, I showed you the lists. Arpeggiator. And there's 100 different arpeggiator types. Splits. So splits are easy, and then there's layers too. See, I have piano and strings, and you can choose which two instruments you want for your layer, but I still have it in split mode, so the bottom is still bass, and I can change that to anything. But here's what's cool. On the bottom, I've got my split, and I have a layer on top. Okay, so above the split point, that gives me 3 tones at the same time. Now, if I remove the split and I just have layers, then the whole keyboard is layered and not just above the split point. And very easy to control not only the volumes of each layer, but you can do the panning as well. All right, so let's turn layers off. And if I go to the next, okay, there's 4 different things on the right that I can change by hitting that function thing. So again, what we start off at is your tone controls or your sound or source controls. That's all your different instruments. You hit function again, and you've got rhythms. You hit it again, and you've got all these control parameters, and you hit it again, and this is where you have your registrations. Those are the 24 banks of 4 areas each. Very easy to store, very easy to recall. So let me go back. Piano. This is Grand Piano Concert, and just by hitting plus, I go to the next one, which is a Grand Piano Bright. Next one, mellow. Stage piano. Rock piano. Jazz piano. Ambient piano. Pop piano. Dance piano. LA piano. Anyway, there's so many of them pianos alone. I don't really have the time to go through all those in this video. So let's get to the next section, electric pianos. This is called Galaxia EP. Dynamic electric piano. Lucent electric piano. some of these things you start playing and it just really gets you going, and it's really nice what you can come up with. Electric piano 1. Electric piano 2. 3. So you can really get inspired by some of these things. Just pick a sound, play with it, and it may inspire you to come up with something. You'd be amazed at how certain sounds can inspire you to write or play or perform different things. It just comes to you. All right, so let's go over to the organ section. Here's a JS organ. And let's try, here's a rock overdrive organ. Tremolo organ. A jazz organ. Jazz organ 2. Electric organ. Wow, there's a lot of electric organs here. Percussion organ. Gospel organ. Full drawbar. Rock organ. Amp organ. I mean, there's just so much here. Let's get a click organ. Pipe organ. Let me show you something. Here's an organ pad. While I'm holding this, I can go over to the next organ. Seamless transition. Not only is it a seamless transition, I'm holding the previous selection of that organ pad while I'm playing the new one. Pipe organ. So anyway, here's a pipe organ. Here's another one. So you can see the characteristics are a little different on the pipe organ too. And there's a 3. So depending on what you want to do, you've got 3 different pipe organs there. That is so cool. Chapel organ. Organs alone, I'm just going to go to the next. Here's some strings, standard like stereo strings. Mellow strings. And by the way, let me just turn the volume down for a second. Listen to this. Previous generation Privias had a noisy keyboard. This is pretty quiet. It's actually very quiet for what it is. Now, if you want really quiet, go get a Hawaii MP11, but you're going to spend about close to $3,000 on that. Here you're paying a fraction of that price. Okay, get my volume back up there. So there's different categories within these, and let's see, I'm on strings right now. There's just so much, I'm not sure what to play you. Here's a violin here. And before that was a solo violin. Slow violin. And there's just so much here. So much. Violin section. Harp. Harp and strings. Oh, this is one of the ones where if I wasn't recording right now, I could get lost in this and just become truly inspired and come up with something amazing. Well, anyway, let's get to pads. I mean, the guitars here are really good too. The nylon guitar, the steel guitar, but I need to get through the stuff. These are pads. And then others. There's so many others. Oh, here we go. Here's a nylon guitar right here. Steel guitar. You could get so expressive here, and I could spend the whole day doing this kind of stuff. So let's just stop the demonstration of the individual instruments here and go on to the next section. I have a lot to cover yet. These are rhythms. So let's start with an example. This is a pops rhythm over here. We're going to start. And it has like arranger capabilities because you're hearing this steady beat right now. And it's going to change depending on what you pick. But here's a fill-in. Okay? And here's a variation of a fill-in. Okay? And when I'm ready to end, I pick that and it's going to go through its last beat and end. Didn't expect it to go on that long, but yeah, you get the idea. All right. So there's all kinds of stuff. Let's go to, well, let's just see what else is in here. Guitar 8-beat. Pretty standard, pretty straightforward. Okay, try a fill in. And if you hold it, see, then there's a variation. And then there's the synchro ending. It'll finish what it's doing, and then it'll end. Okay. And then there's jazz and Latin and world and all that kind of stuff and ballad. So let's go to the next. And I think I've already covered the control section over here. The DSPs, transpose, the knob assignment, arpeggiator, splits and layers. And I've covered the banks and all that. Now, this function switch right here has a fifth function. If you press and hold it, now you get to the function portion of this whole digital piano. And we're starting out with sound. These are the different categories of functions that you can modify. Let's just go through them so you can see what those categories are. Sound, keyboard, pedal/wheel, registrations, accompaniments, arpeggiators and auto harmonizer, song, media, that's for when you plug your USB in, and it has the USB type A and type B connections on the back. Type B, of course, is to host. It goes to your computer or tablet or smartphone, and type A is for plugging in like a USB thumb drive or flash drive, so you can put your stuff on there or transfer things easily. So that's media. And you can, when you record, you can record to the flash drive as well. MIDI, this is where you make all your MIDI selections, and this does include high resolution MIDI. Not many programs or VSTs recognize high resolution MIDI. Piano Tech is one of them. So when you're using high resolution MIDI, instead of sending 128 different levels of velocity, 0 to 127, it uses 16,384, which is quite a difference. So, and again, Piano Tech recognizes it, and there might be another one or two programs that do, but so far the rest of the VST world hasn't caught up with that yet. All right, then we have audio input. So where you plug in your 1/8" stereo mini plug. And then the system. And then we're back to sound. So when you go into sound, here's the acoustic simulator. And if you're familiar with Kawai, they have this thing called a virtual technician. And this is their version of that. So when I go into the acoustic simulator, I have things that I can control like string resonance. All right, and let me just show you something here. When you hold down a chord, actually, let me get out of here for a second. I want to go back to piano. Man, piano concert, cool. All right, now let's go back here into sound and acoustic simulator, string resonance. Okay, so it's just set up for tone right now, or off. Or I can set it to 1, 2, 3, or 4. So the string resonance level can be as low as 1 or as high as 4. Now let me explain. When you hold down a chord, let me just try and play a C chord without sounding any notes. Okay, so I'm holding down C, E, G, C. On a piano, those dampers are lifted while I'm holding this down. So any note on the entire keyboard that I play that is a harmonic or cousin or related to a C, E, or G will make those notes that I'm holding down ring or sound. So, and I can make it do it a little more. Here's a resonance of 2. Let's go all the way up to 4. Now, if I play something that's not related to a C, E, or a G, nothing happens. But yeah, I just played a G. Nothing happens. But listen, when it's related, this is what helps bring out the natural beauty of the sound. And it's so cool. Anyway, that's just one thing. That's string resonance. Then I have damper resonance, which is a whole nother thing. I can turn that off or on, assign it a value of 1 through 4. Damper noise, the noise that you naturally hear on a piano when you press the damper pedal and the dampers lift up. Then there's key on noise and key off noise. And we're back to string resonance, so let's exit that. The next thing in the sound category is effects. So here's the chorus type that you can modify, brilliance, those two things. And that's it. We're back to acoustic simulator. So under the sound category, you've got the acoustic simulator and the effects, and that's it for that section. The next section, or the next category, is keyboard, and this is where you set your touch response. So you choose keyboard, touch response comes up, and to that, like I said, I have mine set for light 2. And you can go light 1, normal, heavy 1, or heavy 2, or you can turn it off completely. I don't know why anybody want to do that, because here's what happens when this is off. Watch how lightly I'm going to touch this. I'm barely touching it. Now watch how heavily I'm going to play it. No difference. So whatever you press it, however loud or however hard or soft, it's all going to be the same volume. So, but I like to keep mine on light 2. Keyboard volume, part volume, the different parts that you can play. You can control the volumes of those too. You can have an octave shift of whatever part you want. So if you're doing a part that's flute and it's down here, you want to make it so that you play it more where it's supposed to be played at as far as the sound scale goes. Part fine tune, scale tuning, duet mode, that's an interesting one. If I go into duet mode and turn that on, now for middle C, I've got 2 equal keyboards of 44 notes each. So that's cool. And you could use this in a teacher-student type of relationship. So you have a teacher at one end, student at the other, and you're both playing the same thing, and it's really cool. So I don't need this, so I'm going to turn that back off. I got my full piano. Upper octave, lower octave. Okay, so you get the idea. And there's just so many of these. We've gone through some of these already. There's a lot more. So just giving you ideas. Now, pedal wheel, that's another interesting one. For the damper pedal, I can go ahead and make my damper do sustain or sostenuto or soft or arpeggio hold or play stop for, playing your rhythms and recordings and stuff like that. Fill-ins. Okay, but that's not the triple pedal. That is like this, plugged into the pedal slide. You can actually change the function of this. So if you're using the triple pedal, you've got all your pedal functions, and now this is an extra bonus, and you can assign any of these to that. All right, so the same thing with the expression pedal. You go into the next one. This is where your expression assignable pedal is. So if you go into there, The pedal type, expression pedals come in two types, type 1, type 2, and this is where you set the type to type 1 or type 2 to match whatever your pedal is. And after you've done that, pedal target, you can make it a standard expression pedal or a master volume pedal or a tempo pedal or layer balance, sustain, and this is what I was talking about. If you do that, now you've got a half damper on an expression pedal. Sostenuto, soft arpeggio hold, play stop, fill in, and so on and so forth. So there is so much you can do with this. Pedal unit, wheel, yeah, you can change the wheel too. So the pitch bend range, you can set the range. Right now this is 2. Let's try 8. So that's pretty cool too. Let's keep it at 2. Upper 1 part, upper 2 part, so on and so forth. Registrations, this is what I was telling you about before, but here's that freeze parameter that I mentioned, and you can choose which parameters you want to freeze so that when you load a registration, it does not wipe out that parameter. Very, very cool. Piano Tech uses something like that, and I think maybe that's where they got the idea from. That's really cool. Accompaniment section, arpeggiator, auto harmonizer section, song section, song types, and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, I think that I've covered pretty much what I wanted to get across today. As you can see, I barely scratched the surface, but I'm hoping that I showed you enough of an overview that you get the idea of what this thing is all about, and it is more than capable. And as for the action, it's so interesting to go onto these piano forums and have everybody arguing about how it can't be any good. This is while we were waiting for this to become available for consumers to purchase. You know, after it was announced, there was a few months before it was available. Then after it became available, you're seeing nothing but praise from people that have bought this or people that just went to their retailer and tried it out. High, high praise. I really haven't met anybody, and I know a lot of people, I haven't met anybody that does not like the action on this. Okay? So anyway, I'm really hoping that this helped you out. So, Piano Man Chuck, peace out. Thanks for watching.